Nobody just sits at home and listens to Fish. No, you gotta go out there. You gotta
if you listen to it at home, you're like, this is shit. But if you're on a bunch of acid, following them around the country, it's like, this can't be shit because I've ruined my life. This has to be good.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You are tuned in to Blood on the Mic. I'm your host, David Mercado. This is my co-host,
Louis Torna. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the mid-2000s sensation of Jewish reggae, Matisyahu.
Matisyahu. If you're wondering to yourself, what are these words that are coming out of your mouth? Then you might consider yourself spared. This is a very millennial topic over here. I feel like anybody who didn't live through, what year was that? 2005? 2004?
It was 2005, I think, that Live at Stubbs came out.
Yeah, if you didn't live through that year, I feel like you missed out on what this Matisyahu guy was all about.
This is one of those musical rarities, one of those oddities where it's just like, why did this get popular? Like, so Matisyahu was a Jewish reggae singer, and I think he's still active.
He's still active, yeah.
But you hear the words Jewish reggae, you're like, what? Why?
It just happens to be the alternate universe. It's the universe that we happen to be living in, I feel like.
And not even regular, like, he wasn't just some Jewish guy. He was a Hasidic Jew with the whole outfit and the beard and the curly. Yeah,
he had the whole thing going. He was for sure serious Orthodox Jew, and I feel like I don't know if we lucked out or if we got the short end of the deal here, because I feel like in an alternate universe we could have had Gregorian chants of the Vedas, or possibly some Buddhist gospel, but instead we got this Hasidic reggae. But
yeah,
I don't know. How do you feel? Do you think we got
if we lucked out? I mean, I'm not upset that it exists, but I mean, we can get into the merits of the music in a minute, but let's talk about Matisyahu a little bit.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about him. He was born Matthew Paul Miller in Chester, Pennsylvania in 1979.
Okay.
So
is that like Philadelphia or like
to Westchester, Pennsylvania, sorry.
Westchester, Pennsylvania.
But he then moved to White Plains, New York, where he grew up. And that was, he grew up, mainly around Jews. It was a Jewish community. He went to Jewish high school, Jewish school in general, where he just grew up all around Jews. But he wasn't born into like a Hasidic Jewish family. I don't even know if Hasidic Jews can like have kids and stuff. And
I mean, they can, I think, yeah.
But yeah, he was, one of those Reformed Jews, the ones that were like, they're not super religious, but they're culturally Jewish.
And that's what his family was growing up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like he didn't start off like super in the faith.
Is he converted into it?
Well,
he adopted the
yeah. And as far as the Matisyahu name came from, I actually saw him in an interview with Sway, and he said that the name Matisyahu came from in White Plains, like he was around all these Jews, and like they all had like Jewish names. And he was like, he wanted one basically, because like if he was just Matthew, they were just like, they were all named Shlomo and stuff like that. This is what he said. He's like, I need to get myself a Jewish name. And apparently Matisyahu, this is what he said. Matisyahu is just Hebrew for Matthew.
That's his name, right?
Yeah, his name is Matthew.
Okay.
So,
all right. If
I don't
know if Matisyahu is the, I mean, I'll take it for.
I don't know if that's true, but maybe. But yeah, he grew up, going to Jewish school, doing all that Jewish shit. He was just entrenched in Jewish culture. But, he was also in New York. So he did grow up listening to, it's a cultural melting pot there. Everything's there. So, of course, he grew up. Things, yeah. So, of course, he grew up listening to hip hop and stuff that was around. Reggae was around. So he was hearing that shit as well. But he actually dropped out of high school at a young age. And what was the thing that happened to him? He dropped out of high school, and he became a fish head.
like
the band
pH fish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was like he did nothing. He just did a bunch of acid and followed fish around.
Yeah, this should come as a bit of a warning. If I had to give a public service announcement out there, beware of becoming a fish head. You might enjoy it at the time, but then next thing you know, 10 years have gone by, and all you've done is gone to fish concerts
and taken a bunch of acid.
That's
what he's like. He was all at the time. He was like 14, 15, 16 or whatever.
I mean, I guess
he literally followed fish around the country.
That's what you do.
Taking acid.
If you don't do that, you're doing it wrong. Like nobody just sits at home and listens to fish. No, you gotta go out there. You gotta
if you listen to it at home, you're like, this is shit. But if you're on a bunch of acid, following them around the country, it's like, this can't be shit because I've ruined my life. This has to be good.
You could look at it that way. It's definitely an upgrade from being a Dave Matthews bro.
Oh, that's the word. That's the bottom of the barrel.
But if I had to do one of these lifestyles, you know what I would be, right?
Which one?
I would be, what would they even call it?
A yacht rocker?
No, I'm going to call it a Pearl Jammer head.
Is that a thing?
I mean, they're known for their concerts, and there's people who definitely go to multiple Pearl Jam concerts in their life. And, because you can never get enough of that. Hey, yeah.
Are you going to do a fucking Pearl Jam impression on every episode?
If I can get around to it, then yes.
Okay. And every time I got to put the song underneath.
Yeah, that even flow karaoke version.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, in high school, he was what the fuck am I talking about? Fish head. So yeah, he dropped out of high school, became a fish head, and then stopped doing that. And then in 1996, he actually went to Israel and attended like a 2-month program in Israel, high school program. And he was like 16 or something around this time.
Yeah.
So he went to Israel. A lot of Jewish people go to Israel.
Yeah, there's that birthright trip that people take.
Which I wish I was Jewish because I'd love to go to Israel and because they pay for it, don't they?
They do pay for it.
There was an episode of Broad City where they did birthright.
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing in life that comes for free. I feel like there's something along to it. Maybe they
expect you to marry a Jew and stay there. I think that's what they expect.
I mean, you're already a Jew, but
because the Jewish community,
I feel like they expect you to settle out in the Palestinian lands and
in the well, you think they think they're trying to get Americans to take the Palestinian land? What do you mean?
Yeah, how there's settlements out in the West Bank.
Yeah. You think that's exclusively for Americans?
I mean, I don't know if exclusively, but they have these advertisements that say oh, you're only 15 minutes from Jerusalem, and then
you're only on contested land.
My commute would be so much better if I was living here in this illegally held territory,
in this illegally occupied territory.
Yeah.
What the are you talking about? Literally Judaism.
Regardless of that, he goes to Israel, and what happens?
Yeah, he just takes he discovers more of his Jewish faith there because at the time, if you grow up in any religion, for the most part, most people aren't super into it. There's, some of those high school Christians or whatever, they're super into Christianity.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of those people. He was a fish head. Mm-hmm. So, he goes to Israel and, starts doing that, learning more about Judaism. This isn't when he became a full Hasidic Jew, but he was getting there, starting to learn more about it. And actually an interesting part that he also said in an interview is that what made him get more into Judaism was listening to Bob Marley.
Really?
Yeah, because Bob Marley had a lot of religious themes, but it was Rastafarianism and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But all that still ties into Christianity and Judaism.
Yeah, I think the Rastafari movement, I think, is still part of the
still Judeo-Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, it still has the same roots, as they say.
So yeah, he would listen to Bob Marley and hear that stuff that he would be hearing at Jewish school and stuff, and the things that he learned from Judaism, it made him. And he was hearing that spiritual message from Bob Marley, and he was taking it that ties into my faith, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, Roots Reggae in particular has a lot of religious, I would say overtones, really.
Yeah, it's just
there is a lot about Jah and I, all of these topics. Bob Marley hit him up pretty well, but there were certainly other artists that got even equally deep or even more so.
So yeah, when he came back from Israel, he tried to go back to high school because he had already dropped out at that point, and this was his first year of senior. This was his senior year, and on the first day he dropped out again.
Okay.
And he actually ended up going to a rehab program in like upstate New York.
Well, was that why he dropped out, or like?
It didn't specify why he dropped out, but it just said that he ended up dropping out on the first day of school. So he went to the rehab center because he was having problems with drugs and shit at the time. That was in upstate New York, and then he actually ended up going to Bend, Oregon, and he did like a wilderness.
Bend, Oregon.
That's
like the worst city in Oregon.
Is it?
that's like taking. That's like taking.
Is it the Orlando of Oregon?
No, I would say it's even worse than that. I don't know. Like it's like the Brooksville of Oregon. If I had to like say anything.
God, well, that's a deep cut Florida reference.
Deep cut Florida reference. Yeah, I don't know.
Trust me, it's bad.
Like, yeah, I can't even tell you. Like, maybe like Reno, Nevada is probably a similar comparison. I don't know. It's one of those like middle of like the western. Like barren lands.
Well, he didn't go there for fun. It was basically another rehab program.
Okay.
That but it was like a wilderness retreat kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So he was like out in the wilderness doing rehab, basically. So, he had a pretty tumultuous childhood, I'd say.
Okay. Well,
and then after that, he ended up coming back to New York, and where he decided to fully pursue music. And what does a white Jew do other than become a reggae musician? Like, that's the clear path.
Of course. I mean, I guess up to this point, it kind of makes sense if his favorite music is Bob Marley.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only thing I got.
Yeah. So he's, like, working on his music and stuff, and he's not catching a break. Like, he's working on his music and shit, and he's not getting signed. He's not making an impact or anything. He's not coming through.
Well, does he have a band? Like, does he just perform by himself? What does he do?
He doesn't have a band. He's like performing with other musicians and stuff, but he never really forms like a band with them. But he does basically open mics and things like that, performing around town.
And does he have the whole look at this point?
No, he's not a Hasidic Jew yet.
Oh, okay. I see.
But this is actually when it starts. Like, so he's more into the faith than he was when he was a kid. He's like more Jewish. But actually, at this time is when he becomes a full like Hasidic Jew, because he meets this rabbi who was like a singing rabbi. That's what they called him, the singing rabbi. He was also like a musician.
Okay.
So and he like kind of mentors him and stuff, but he kind of also takes him as like a role model. It's like he's a musician and super in the faith, and like he basically starts taking that and like getting way more into Judaism and becomes a Hasidic Jew. And in the interview I saw with him on Sway, he kind of said that it gave him discipline and focus, which is what he said he needed at the time. And so yeah, he's at the same time of being a musician, he then becomes full orthodox and adopts all the tenets of that stuff, and still becomes reggae musician. And from there, after that, his career starts to pick up, and the rest is history, kind of thing.
History.
And now it's the famous Matisyahu that everybody knows about.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say his appearance is definitely part of it. Yeah, no, I would agree. Like I guess it makes sense why he became a Hasidic Jew. It makes sense why he enjoyed reggae music. It's just it's just like what. I guess the surprising element is just the two things coming together, but also just the tenacity of like a white Jewish person performing.
Well,
reggae music.
This is what I want to talk about. Do you think so? This happened in like he got big. King Without a Crown came out. Well, Live at Stubbs came out in 2005.
Right.
King Without a Crown, I think, was like around 2005, 2006. And that was the song that got him huge. Big single, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was 15 years ago. Do you think if he did this now, people would be okay with it? Because he has a Jamaican accent while he's doing this.
Is it really a Jamaican accent?
In some songs, it's stronger than others.
Yeah, at the very
King
least,
Without a Crown, he has a strong Jamaican accent on that.
At the very least, he has like a Jamaican cadence, which is harder to figure out if that's a Jamaican accent.
It's close enough that to question like what he's doing, because if you listen to him talk, he doesn't sound like that.
Right. I think like even during the concerts. So here's a little bit of a.
Did you go to a Matisyahu concert?
So there's a little bit of like a side story over here. So back, like most people, I found out about Matisyahu 2005. Didn't really care for it, but I used to work at this library, and I checked out the CD of Matisyahu a couple years later, 2007, something like that, and it turned out. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but I really enjoyed it as a high school kid. All throughout high school, I listened to it. And, maybe not nonstop, but, I know the album. And in college, I don't really listen to him too much in college. But I'm going through my day, going through my life. And one day I get out of class and I see a poster saying Matisyahu concert. And it was in the morning that I saw this. And the concert was later that night. And I told all my friends, all my roommates at the time. And, they knew who Matisyahu was. They didn't know his stuff that well, though. They were just like, whatever, that's cool. Like, we could go. And then I find out that I have an exam that night. Literally, what kind of people...
On the night... Who would schedule an exam on the night Matisyahu is performing? Like, what kind of monster would do that?
Well, I mean, even just think of the Matisyahu part of it. Like, who schedules exams at, like, 7 p.m. at nighttime? Like, when
was it a night class?
No, it was like our normal schedule was like 11 a.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Those exam schedules are always weird. They always did it in like completely different times from what your class was.
Yeah,
I don't know why they
it's messed up because you spend the entire day stressing out about it. I don't understand what compels these professors to just have you stressed out the entire day over this exam that's gonna be happening at nighttime, and it also ruins your eating schedule. Usually in the evenings is when you have like social activities or like extracurricular activities. What if I had a Dungeons and Dragons night set up that night? And
did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons?
No, I'm just a poser. I never played Dungeons and Dragons.
You're a nerd in so many other ways. You don't have to pretend to be a D&D nerd.
What if I had one of my honor society meetings that night?
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Or in this case, what if I have a Matisyahu concert?
Yeah.
I was the only one in my apartment who knew these songs. Like, I could actually sing along to these songs. Did
your friends go with you?
My friends went without me. And it actually
didn't even want to go.
It actually inspired them to go more. They were like, oh, we can go to a concert that David really wants to go to, but he can't because
Fuck
of a
that
test.
guy.
Oh, let's do it. And so they told me, though, that this guy was hilarious, that, like, in between sets, he would, like, crack jokes. And like his show was actually really good.
So you didn't end up going?
I didn't end up going. No. But yeah, no. They said that he also like talked a little bit about like.
Do you know if he was still like Hasidic at this point? Because I know that he stopped.
I don't know. I think they said that he didn't have like the full Hasidic thing going on.
He probably still had the beard and stuff.
He probably still had the beard.
In an interview, he said that he like shaved off his beard. I think in 2011.
Yeah, no, I don't think he has shaved off his beard at that point. But I don't know. They didn't take any pictures, so I don't know. But they still bring it up every now and then. Whenever either Matisyahu comes up. Or whenever it
comes up all the time.
Yeah, there's a few things in life that they always bother me with. That, my gallbladder, all of that.
But more. So my point was, do you think this would pass in 2020? Like a white Jewish guy doing reggae music? Because the topic of cultural appropriation was a huge thing,
right?
And this is. I mean, people got on Bruno Mars for sounding like Michael Jackson, the biggest pop star in the world. You don't think they'd get on a Jewish guy for having a Jamaican accent doing reggae music?
Right. No, I think things would have definitely been different nowadays. I'm trying to think of like when the cutoff would have been. I'm thinking of the band Tune Yards. You know Tune Yards. So Tune Yards, they adopted, Afrobeat sound.
And they weren't the only one. There was a lot of
Vampire Weekend and, Dirty Projectors, etc. But
So what? That was what, early 2010s.
So
right?
their first album was 2011. So for sure that was a hit that year. And then their follow-up album was 2014. Nobody really gave them any slack. But I remember first talking about cultural appropriation, specifically about Vampire Weekend, like roughly around 2017. I think is when I had this conversation with somebody. Because like, yeah, I think by 2017 there was already like a ball rolling. Even 2016, I think that like. But point being, I don't think 2020. I don't think it would be passable. No,
because
I think because I mean also things are so ridiculous nowadays. Like they probably see back then there was like this like novelty factor about it. Oh, Hasidic Jew doing reggae music.
yeah, because the whole thing was like, what is a Hasidic Jewish guy doing reggae music? Like people weren't offended; they were astonished.
Yeah.
They were just like, "What is this?"
Literally Judaism.
Yeah, especially because he was like good. You know,
Yeah.
like, it like if you just hear it like on the radio, you're just like, oh, that's a pretty cool. Is that Damien? And then you're just like, no, that's some this Jewish guy from New York. And but it nowadays I don't know. Most people would, first of all, their reaction would just be like, yeah, so what? Like a Hasidic Jew doing reggae, like yeah. Have you seen that like kid over there with like tattoos and pink hair, like like that?
Have you seen fucking all these emo rappers?
Yeah. Hey, you haven't heard about this rapper who sounds like the Chipmunks? Like
645 AR.
there's just so many things nowadays that are like so like the shock value has just been like the bar has been raised.
But also just specifically the topic of cultural appropriation, because like even now when I listen to it now, I hadn't listened to Matisyahu since 2005, 2006, whatever. Like,
yeah.
So I listen to it now and I'm like, why does he have that accent? Because there are songs when he doesn't do that.
Right. I feel like
he lays it on the various degrees throughout the album.
Yeah. Like, I did a dancehall radio show on 88.1 WMBR.
WMBR 88.1 Cambridge. Listen to it.
And I did a dancehall show the other day, and I was wondering, like, if in between the breaks, if I should go in and act, should try to put up an act, like if I was one of those DJs. Like when you go to like have you ever been to like a reggae show, a dancehall show?
No, I haven't.
So like, there's a particular thing that like, I don't know if it's particular to Jamaican DJs, but it might be like
a bunch of air horns and shit and fucking...
no, air horns I think are for like outside events, but like, no, it's just this thing where like, they like cut in the middle of a song. Sometimes they just like cut out the song like completely. Like they go from like 100 to 0.
Yeah.
And then they're just like hyping up the music, but like they have a particular like delivery that they have, and it's not even just so much the accent. It's just like the speed and like the cadence of it. It's
so
like
just
a certain,
like hyping it up.
It's a certain like hype that goes along with it. And obviously I'm not the best at it. That was a very poor
So you were
example.
debating whether to do it or not.
But I was debating whether I should like try to mimic it. And obviously I would have listened to a few samples of it and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I was like, maybe it's because I was too lazy. Maybe it's just because like in my mind I was just thinking like, I don't want people thinking I'm like some racist person.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think it would have been racist as long as I didn't try to imitate a Jamaican accent.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think Matisyahu is racist. I don't think he means anything bad by doing the Jamaican accent or anything.
Yep.
I just, I mean, I don't...
Where's the line? Can you say Mon?
No,
you can't say Mon.
Not. Have you seen fucking Tom Hanks' son?
No.
Like, because he has his one son who's also an actor.
Okay.
And then he has another son that he shuns completely. His name is like Chet Hanks or something. But he's also like I don't know, he does reggae, he just does random shit. He just does drugs mostly. And he'll like sometimes goes on red carpets and shit. And he just puts on this deep Jamaican accent. And so it's like, oh, I'm Tom Hanks here at the fucking whatever, but like I'm gonna cut in a clip of him doing it because it's fucking amazing.
Big up the whole island, massive. It's your boy Chatana, coming straight from the Golden Globes. You want saying?
I know I can't. I mean I don't know. I would have to. I didn't look out to see in his like how Jamaican his accent was. It definitely wasn't as bad as Matthew Brody. Was it Matthew Brody? Is that the guy?
Who's Matthew Brody?
He was the guy who. I just want to make sure the same is the guy from The Pianist.
Oh, Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody. Who's Matthew Brody?
I have
Maybe
no
I'm thinking of
idea.
somebody else.
Did he do a Jamaican accent?
Yeah, so Adrian Brody, he went on SNL, and it was the night that Sean Paul was performing.
Oh.
And when he went out to introduce Sean Paul, he put on one of those like green
Rasta wig
one of the
things?
Rasta wigs with like the dreads coming out.
Stuff you know. You got the whole family in the house, you know. You know, me got Sean Peter, you know, you got Sean Paul, you got Sean Mary.
So he was just basically dressed as a Rasta guy, and he came out and he was like, "Mon, we're gonna come up with
Yeah.
Sean Paul," and I don't know. He like said whatever this like fall Jamaican, obviously like trying to make fun of like the whole Jamaican thing, and props to Sean Paul. He just kind of just started his song like nothing had happened. It was just like he just shook he just went full Jay-Z and
dirt off your shoulders.
Dirt off your shoulders. Like we're talking about Temperature over here. Like my new single Temperature gives
that happened to me
gives people strokes and
that happened to at my job. I have to take calls from customers or whatever.
Yeah.
And they get invoices from us and it has my name on it. It's Luis Torna or Luis. It's Luis. So it's this guy from Kansas, and he's like, "Is this Luis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Luis. What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, como estás?" And I'm like, "What do you want?" I just said, "What do you want?"
I do have some coworkers at the radio station who sometimes they'll say like hola David and like muchas gracias.
Yeah.
And
and you're like, I speak English. So.
I mean, they'll speak English for like the rest of it, but I just kind of go like, huh?
Yeah.
There's some things that I think are more acceptable than others.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
I just thought that was hilarious because like I spoke English to him opening up. Like, did he think it was gonna make me feel better if he spoke Spanish? I don't. But
I am okay with your kind in this country.
I think it's fine that you live here. I don't want
even like I'm accepting of the fact that you speak this other language when you're at home.
I don't want you to go back to your country.
In fact, this job you have right now, I'm glad that it's you and not some other
not some
American
white guy.
Yeah, some.
And
white
you know
guy
what?
doing it.
Look, he lived in Kansas, and maybe for Kansas, he might be very progressive. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Some people are just proud. Like some, I don't know. Yeah, it's not. He's got good intentions in his heart. I would say.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I wasn't mad at him. I didn't think he was racist or anything. I'm just like, why are you doing this? Just don't do that.
I had almost convinced myself that I was full on American.
And you remind me. But so I don't know. It's just that with Matisyahu, I just like, because I think it would be interesting. I want to hear these songs. I think it would have been more interesting if he did these reggae songs with an American accent, like his normal accent, and not put on this faux Jamaican accent.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like, I would have wanted to hear what that sounds like.
It would just sound like Real Big Fish or. Sometimes I think about this too when I listen to Sublime. Sublime sometimes puts on like.
Did they? If they did, they didn't do it a lot.
They didn't do it a lot, especially not the lead singer. But like but then again, Sublime did also bring on like actual Jamaican artists on their music. Same with No Doubt. They a lot of my first initial exposure to Jamaican artists outside of Bob Marley, of course, was through like songs from No Doubt.
Yeah.
They had like Lady Saw, I think they had her, and a few other people. But the I think maybe the accent itself they could have done away with, but I think the reggae fits well, oddly enough, because reggae, as like we mentioned earlier, already has like some religious hints into it.
Well,
so,
do you want to talk about the album?
Yeah, we could just talk straight about the album. I don't know what else to talk about. The look itself. It's very captivating. I would say.
Well, yeah, he's got the full
that,
Hasidic garb on.
Yeah,
he's got the black hat, the suit, the beard.
His music videos have it as well, and he's got some pretty good music videos. They're not like this weird Lazy Sunday slapped together YouTube videos. Like they're like legit like produced videos. And
Well,
like,
yeah, he was a big artist at the time.
right. And he took his music seriously. So that's another thing. This is not some like comedy novelty.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the actual music. So let's get into the album discussion.
Album discussion. Okay, to start off, we chose the live album instead of any of the studio albums.
Live at Stubbs.
Live at Stubbs,
Released in 2005.
and it was a big deal because he released a Live at Stubbs too. So he clearly Live at Stubbs 1. Oh, he also has a Live at Stubbs Volume 3.
Yeah, that's his bread and butter.
That's his bread and butter, the Live at Stubbs.
So why do you think this is considered like the Matisyahu album?
Because in my opinion, one, it has like his main hit on it, so that's one thing. And it has a lot of the other songs are also solid, but what really makes it stand out as opposed to the album that came before it, I forget what is it? Shake Off the Dust, Arise. What makes it different is that over here, he has a real audience connection, and that's really important in a religious sense. I don't know how I know you're familiar with like religious activities, but I don't know how familiar you are with religious recordings. But if you there's a lot of religious artists that also shine best when they are in concert, because there's like a weird like connection that happens like amongst the entire group, the entire audience, and also the singer. It's very much like an event that if you're able to capture that on tape, is a lot better than just listening to this guy in a studio where like he's not as inspired.
And listening to this, I did get the feeling of being like in a small like club or venue. I don't know how big Stubbs is or what it is.
I don't think it's that big.
Cause it feels like it's even like a bar or something.
Yeah, Stubbs in Austin, Texas. I'm imagining it's some hipster bar or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like you really get like a communal sense. Like you feel like you're in a small place listening to Matisyahu with like just a small group of people, and you're into it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like that aspect to it, and also I think equally important. This band just slaps. It's this band is so tight when they're performing in this thing. Like,
let's get into. So do you love this album or you like it? Like,
I really like this album. I would say I really like it. I don't think it's like a fantastic record. I wouldn't put it up there. It's not like top 10 of the decade. I think it might make top 10 of that year, maybe 2005. There's a lot of solid records in that year. At least a lot of records that I hold very personal to me. Mm-hmm. That's roughly the year that I started listening to music. So a lot of like the stuff that I grew up on was there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I really like it. I think the songs, each one is delivered in a strong manner. Like there's no.
He is a very strong performer.
He doesn't treat any song as a throwaway. So there's that, and like the songs I feel like are different enough in composition. Or
that was my issue with the album, is that a lot of the songs weren't different enough.
You say that they're not different enough. Well,
there's some songs like I think there's enough highlights on the album to get by.
Yeah,
but a lot of the songs, they're just like same shit, kind of. I don't know.
Well, compared to like a typical reggae album, how would that compare? Because I feel like that you can make that argument about a lot.
Well,
of
I think it's just other, but I mean, yeah, I guess, but I think they're just other reggae. It depends on the strength of the songwriting. You can say that about any genre. It's like the shit just starts to sound the same. I think he's just not that strong of a songwriter.
Okay,
like there was like a formula to like that.
There is a bit of a formula. Yeah, I would say, even though there are some songs that are different, like the one where he's beatboxing.
Yeah, that was cool. Because it starts beatboxing, and then I think the song was just called Beatbox.
It is just called Beatboxing.
So yeah, it starts with him beatboxing, and it was a pretty cool, intricate beatbox actually, and that goes on for a few minutes, and then it transitions into like basically a straight hip hop song. I think somebody else comes in too to like rap a verse, and then Matisyahu raps a verse, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it because it does break it up, because basically the entire rest of the thing is just reggae.
Yeah.
And but so that's cool. It breaks up the album, gives it something different. But yeah, I mean, some highlights I liked on the song. I like the first song, Sea to Sea.
From sea to shining sea.
Because it has some dub elements in there too. There's like some guitar lines that sound like dub guitar lines, and there's some like reverb shit. There's some songs that put some dub elements in there that I like.
Okay.
There's another song in here that put a bunch of dub in there. I forgot what it was. Hold on.
Yeah, for me particularly, it was hard to break it apart in this manner. I think because I just like know this album so well that every time I tried, I would just find myself like.
Well, that's
bopping.
the thing. Like, you can vibe to it and shit, but it's just
Right.
like the same vibe for an hour. It's like it doesn't really go different.
Yeah, I guess it does have like a similar vibe
Yeah.
throughout.
The other song was Exaltation, which is like a 7-minute long song, but in the middle there's a bit of a dub breakdown where there's a bunch of reverb shit and like all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Exaltation is probably one of the highlights for me in this album.
Yeah. I think the best song on here is King Without a Crown.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why it's a single.
It's the poppiest song on there.
It starts out pretty well, like the intro to the song. In a way, I think that's the one that reminds me most of Bob Marley, at least like later Bob Marley.
Well, the thing with Bob Marley, and I think why he was the biggest reggae artist, is because he just made pop songs. Like at a certain point, they were reggae,
At a certain point, yeah.
Like,
I think once Exodus
early on, he did this roots reggae shit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point, he became a pop star and he made pop music. Like it was reggae, but super pop.
Yeah, you listen to Kaya, and Kaya is just basically a straight pop record.
And it's great. I mean, he was a great
I love it,
songwriter.
yeah.
I love Bob Marley, but he did lean heavily into pop. And, King Without a Crown is definitely in that vein. It was leaning heavily into pop, like pop rock kind of thing with a reggae tinge to it.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. King Without a Crown, yeah, is definitely the most like pop available song. And isn't there like a romantic element to that song too? Like return the princess to his kingdom or something.
Well, it's really more of like a spiritual. Every song on here is like a spiritual thing.
Is
it's not really a love song.
No, but like I mean, like the metaphor that they use is what I do like about Matisyahu is his messaging, which because it's not specifically Jewish. He might put some Jewish references and shit in there. I mean, he's not talking about the Talmud here. Like, he's not.
Even though there's a song on here called like Aish Tamid, I don't know what the fuck that is. It sounds Jewish, but yeah, like it's kind of more like a spirit, like talking about a spiritual journey and like taking your own spiritual journey kind of thing and finding yourself spiritually and shit, which I think is more of a Jewish thing anyway, because they're not really a converting religion. They actually, it's kind of hard to become a Jew if you want to do that.
Yeah, if
you're not born into it.
You kind of have to be born into it.
Yeah.
Or possibly marry into it, maybe.
No, even if you marry into it, you're not a Jew. Like
just
you
a
have
participant.
like you have to take classes and shit. Like it's a whole thing.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess when they're young, a lot of Jewish people do need to go to like a lot of Jewish education too. Like,
even to get like a bar mitzvah and shit, they have to do. They have to learn enough Hebrew to read that thing and stuff. Like it's a whole thing, which I respect.
But I think Judaism is cool. I grew up with a lot of Jewish people. I understand their culture. I think a little bit more than the average American.
Yeah.
But I appreciate Matisyahu. I can get inspired by his message. Even if I don't take it like strictly in a religious sense, I think it is a very inspiring and like you can like dig through what he's saying and be like, it's like back then the king did look out after his flock. Yeah,
he had like which song was that? There was like a spoken word part in the beginning where he's talking about how the king used to look out for people and they need to get back to that or something. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm like, I'm very much not for monarchy, but I get what you're saying. Like,
because the thing is, I'm so anti-authoritarian. I'm just like, I can't get with this. Like, just start doing your fake Jamaican shit before I.
So you just wanted to shut up and
shut up and
what is not rap?
Shut up in patois. Do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, this album is like a vibe. It's a pretty good, because there's some music and shit that's like vibey, and there's not a lot of.
Oh, the guitars are great. I think
the guitarist is really good.
Yeah, not the most original guitars, but you know, they do the job.
And that's another thing, is that the thing was like,
oh, the whole thing is not original. I would say the only original thing is the mix of like Judaism and reggae.
yeah.
But like sound wise, no, it's just the reggae. Right?
But like, to be fair, I think seeing it live would be great.
Right.
Like, it sounds like, listening to this, I'm like, if this was live and I was watching it live, this would be amazing.
Definitely much better than taking an exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I would. Would I go nowadays? Fuck it,
I would go.
I'll go nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't care. The only thing is that I think about it twice, because like after he stopped being the Hasidic performer, I kind of lost interest, to be honest. And
because then he's just a white guy doing Jamaican accents.
But his music got a lot poppier. But I listened to that album, the follow-up album, Youth. I didn't think it was as great. It just lacked the energy. It lacked the connection.
It also wasn't live.
Right, it wasn't
live.
Yeah, but I haven't listened to Live of Steps 2. There was an album called Light, and in it there was a big single called One Day, and it surprisingly charted. I don't know, but by then he was wearing like a hoodie. He wasn't wearing like the hat or like the clothes, but he still had the beard. And
but what do you think? What do you think propelled this up the charts in 2005, 2006? Just the novelty of it.
One, reggae was still an acceptable genre.
Well, because they had that whole ska. That was more in the 90s.
Ska was like late 90s, yeah, but it was still like, there was still a movement for
around.
it. Yeah, people like Damian Marley were still popular among certain crowds. Reggae wasn't completely phased out of society. There was still like you had your reggae guys. People still wore sublime shirts and all of that. Bob Marley was still like, at least where I was growing up.
Bob Marley's still a thing.
Yeah, but I feel like Bob Marley was bigger than Michael Jackson. Really, like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Bob Marley is just one of those icons that will always be. At least I think will always be like. Like he'll always be around. He'll always be like.
I don't know. I feel weird because like I went to college and I played a Bob Marley song with like Three Little Birds or something like that.
Yeah.
And I played a couple of his hits like that from the Legend album. And this one girl that was in the car with me was like, "Oh, what is this music? This is pretty good." And I was like, "You never heard these songs? Like, it's Bob Marley." And he's like, "Oh, I've never heard any Bob Marley before." And like I kind of like went a little bit. I probably went a little bit too harsh on her.
That's like if you play like the Beatles and they're like, what is this? I've never
heard
it.
But like there's definitely believe it or not, there's still people who haven't heard Billie Jean in their life. There's people who I don't know, like what other examples?
You can grow up in like
Hey Jude.
You can grow up in a compound or something, or in like a cult that doesn't let you listen to things.
Or all you have to do is just like grow up in the South and surrounded only by country music.
So it was just basically the novelty, I guess, of it.
I think it was a novelty
because there was still an infrastructure for reggae to become slightly popular.
I think the novelty gave it the exposure, but I think it was just like the slap quality of it.
Because it was good. King Without a Crown is a great song.
It's a good song.
I think it's really good.
I think that's what held it long enough for it to really become a thing, where like. Yeah, if most people who grew up and watched MTV or VH1 or whatever the hell in 2005, they remember Matisyahu. It's like, oh yeah, the Jewish reggae guy. Yeah.
Is there a space now for? Of course, on the internet, weird shit becomes popular. 645 AR.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't really get into the mainstream. Is there a space in the mainstream for weird shit to just crop up? Because in the mid-2000s, weird shit just came up randomly.
It's becoming less so. I mean, the culture's become less unified. But I'm thinking like, okay, I'll give you this. Old Town Road. How did that break through?
That's
a young black guy doing like
that
country hip hop.
Yeah,
Especially once he got Billy Ray Cyrus in there.
Okay, that's a good example of like that's a weird thing that broke through huge.
Right.
That became a huge hit.
And then there was like
He was really smart the way he wrote. Like he continued the popularity of that.
right,
song.
yeah, and he had an outfit that went along with it. Yeah, I would say like that is, yeah. I think crafting a persona, like a visual persona, I feel like it's definitely an important part of breaking that through. And no, that's my best answer for that.
Okay.
Well, what do you think about the album just as a whole? Like, would you listen to this on your spare time ever again?
No.
No.
If I'll listen to better reggae music. It's really not. It's fine. Like I can listen to it, but I wouldn't choose to. I don't think ever.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I grew up with it, listening to it, and that was one of the reggae albums I had. But this will always be like within reach for me. It's not. Did
you listen to this like regularly before? I know you did like when you were a kid, but like between then and like now, did you ever be like, oh, I feel like listening to Matisyahu right now?
Yeah, I did. At most once a year, but probably less frequent than that.
But I mean, that's still pretty good for something like, because there's shit that I loved when I was a kid that I don't pick up all the time, but every once in a while I'll be like, I feel like listening to that.
Yeah, no, it's maybe once a year. I feel like it's too frequent. I feel like maybe like once every 2 to 3 years, it'll come by and I'll be like, oh yeah, whatever, let's put it on. I tend to go back and like.
I feel like if this was an entryway into reggae, or just like even something that you knew before you listened to reggae, because like I'm not huge into reggae, but I've listened to enough reggae to know that this shit is not very unique. Like there's shit that sound like he's clearly copying a sound, and there's music that did it a lot better that I can listen to.
At least for me, is a good listen all the way through, which is
that's
something I appreciate from it.
It's not bad, but I swear to you, I'll never have an urge to listen to this again.
Yeah, and I understand that. Like it's not anything that I don't think that's neither good nor bad. I think that's just perfectly understandable.
Okay, well that's a good place to leave this off. Okay, guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
We got our Instagram at Blood on the Mic, our Twitter at Blood on the Mic 1,
my Twitter at Torna Lewis.
Hit that subscribe button, smash it.
Facebook group, what is it? Blood on the Mic.
Yeah, just Blood on the Mic. You could just
get on us on Facebook.
Ring that bell.
Ring the bell. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, keep an eye out for another video.
Maybe we'll release another video. Who knows? Okay. Bye.